snow globe.
What?
Hello everybody, my name is Luna and welcome to Crit Role Conspiracies, the show where we take a deep dive into Critical Role. This video is sponsored by Anansi's Tapestry of Lives, but more on that later. Belle's Hells wrestle with a sandstorm, get a little too deep into Ashton's memories, and meet an old friend. Let's get into it. On the skyship, the party questions Treshi a little bit more and Imogen reads his mind using her psychic powers. She confirms that yes, he was just trying to use this situation with the Paragon's call to kind of give himself a leg up, to give himself some extra power, but it seems like perhaps he got a little too in over his head because he really fears Odahanthul and he fears the people of the Paragon's call, and it seems like he was trying to get out of this contract, that he was sort of trying to finish up this final shipment and cut ties with them. According to Treshi, apparently the Paragon's call are death obsessed. And okay, are you ready for Luna's ludicrous theory? So when the Raven Queen ascended, she destroyed the god of death and she destroyed all records of their existence. But maybe instead of killing that god and instead of destroying them, she trapped them in Ruidus, which is what that cage is around it. And Paragon's call are connected to that original god of death, and that is why they are death obsessed and they're trying to release it. Yeah? Treshi tries to bribe the party to take him anywhere but Jrusar with 13,000 gold, a number that Chetney is not particularly impressed with.
Make it up to probably 13,000 gold.
Oh,
if I'm able
13,000
to.
gold. Did you hear that? 13,000 gold. That's amazing. It's 3,000 gold extra.
That is how mathematics work, yes.
Give you more time to think.
But they put him in the mold storage room, which sounds like literally the stuff of my nightmares. And they confirm what their top priorities are right now. Number 1 is to take Treshi back to Estros, and number 2 is to revive Laudna. Since they have time to kill, they do a round of sendings. Imogen messages Keyleth.
Found the assassins, found lead, but there are questions. One of ours, down. Strong ties to Whitestone. Please advise. Can you meet?
There's a brief pause before the clear voice of the Tempest returns on the other end of your spell. I appreciate your update. Tell Aurum I've business in Vasselheim, but can meet shortly. Pick a tree.
FCG messages Hexam.
Hey, lady. Fresh cut grass here.
Wow, that was a big waste.
Okay, Jester.
Ashton has a friend who died. We're proud that he has a friend. Can you help bring her back?
Can you help bring her back?
Quanta Costa.
That'll do.
Sweet little metal boy.
Yeah. Well, that's a big waste.
Felt every word of that.
What you ask is extremely difficult and against the nature of fate. Maybe.
Yep, that tracks.
The party are worried that Hexam is going to want, to take FCG in exchange for helping with their Laudna problem, and FCG sort of says, well, maybe it's worth it. You know, you can give me up in exchange for Laudna, and Ashton is extremely unhappy about this. They emphatically say, we leave no one behind. This is likely a tender spot for Ashton because, of course, when they had their accident, they were abandoned by their party, the nobodies. The only person who stayed behind is Milo. So in Ashton's thoughts, when you're family, you do whatever it takes to get that family member back and to not leave them behind. Imogen brings up messaging Delilah again and sort of talks about how she could potentially help, and Aurum shares what he knows of Delilah and the horrible things that she's done, and I loved how they were all taking little notes just as if they had not intimately lived that storyline already in campaign 1. But it does make sense that they would write down what their character knows versus what the player knows, and hey, it's a nice little refresher for anybody watching who might not have seen campaign 1 yet. Now last week I stated that sending doesn't work across planes. I was wrong. Thank you to the many people who corrected me on that. I try and fact check myself, but I definitely miss things sometimes. So there is a small chance of sending failing if you try and send it across plane, but generally you can sort of message anyone, anywhere, at any time. But that still begs the question of where is Delilah? Aurum says she's dead, but clearly she's still hanging around somewhat. I think she is attached to Laudna's spirit, soul, essence, whatever she has as a hollow one. And she is therefore like physically in Laudner's body. I think this is backed up later by what Delilah says when Imogen does send a message to her.
How do I bring her back? Tell me what to do. I'll do anything.
The voice responds, fainter, thin, fading. Whatever it takes. It won't be long now. I'm fading. And I'll take her with me.
It's interesting that Imogen said that she would do anything to get Laudner back, very much in the same way that Delilah would do anything and did go to extraordinary lengths to get her husband Silas back. As the evening rolls in, Chetney looks out over the sky, looks up at the moons, and then starts to howl and to kind of transform slightly into a werewolf without being able to control it. What does that mean? Is that related to Ruiners? Is it perhaps related to this apogee solstice that's coming up in, I think, only about 3 to 4 weeks? Just what the fuck is up with that? Begin the travel montage. A dust storm is on the way, which means it is skill challenge time. Ashton tries to hold the sails in the correct position, fails. Chetney runs to the other sails and helps with those. Success. FCG casts Enhance Ability on Captain Xandus. Success. Fern casts Guidance on Captain Xandus, and that's a fail, so one of the sails just snaps off altogether. They all have to make dexterity saving throws, which they all succeed except for FCG, who goes flying off of the ship. Then they all need to make strength saving throws.
A heavy pull up, and you hold on as the whole ship picks up at an extreme angle into the storm, cruising upward into the depths of the darkness. And it pushes up until it begins to lighten and lighten, and then poof, emerges from the sandstorm just above. The ship rights itself a little bit, and you take a deep breath, Ashton. And you and the crew are the only people on the ship right now.
The storm passes and they all manage to get back onto the ship, avoiding being eaten by some sand pincery creatures, just trying to get on with their pincers. The next day there is another storm, but it's a helpful storm because it pushes from behind and it means that they get to move a little bit faster. Bell's Hells arrive back in Jrusar for the first time in over 10 episodes. I think it's only been, well, it's less than 2 weeks since they left Jrusar in game time. For us, it's been several months. The last time they were here was in July. I can't believe it's been that long. I can't believe we're coming up to the 1-year anniversary of Campaign 3, which is just, that's wild. They say goodbye to Captain Xandus.
No worries. Well, I'm gonna go drink and sleep for 2 days.
And head off to Eshteros's manor. On the way, FCG asks Fern for their coin back, the Changebringer coin that they gave to Fern to help in the coin flipping decision last week.
What coin?
Fern basically sort of plays coy or plays dumb and refuses to give it back. So FCG casts Locate Item and shows that yes, it is like literally just right in her pocket. And Fern admits that she was just messing around. This character trait that Fern has could be reflective of her Fae ancestry because of course in D&D and also just in mythology in general, Fae creatures are said to be tricksy and that they might steal things and making tricky deals. So I think this is a really fun way to see that kind of background that Fern has play out in the game. Also, I'm sure it's going to lead to some interesting conflict down the road if perhaps she takes it a little bit too far one time or she steals the wrong thing and gets the party in trouble. So I think that will be an interesting story to look out for. They enter Eshteros's estate or his home filled with so many traps. It's now my headcanon that Eshtaros one time when he was a small child was left home alone at a festival time and had to deal with some bandits or some burglars coming into his house. And that's why he's so paranoid now.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Eshtaros says the party should either take Treshi to the wardens, which they can do anonymously, or they can take him straight to Mistress Seshadri, who is the head investigator of this Treshi investigation, but doing so will get more eyes on them, more attention on them. They opt for the latter option, one, because they want to try and establish some political connections in the hopes that it might help with Laudner and also with the general sort of moon investigation at large, and they also want money. Except for FCG. FCG never wants to take anyone's money, but everybody else wants the money. And speaking of money, Estros gives them a reward for capturing Treshi. It is a sizable amount of gold, 7 or 8,000 gold. Imogen asks if Lord Estros can help with reviving Laudner at all, and while he doesn't know anyone who can specifically perform resurrection magic, he does know somebody who can help them travel a great distance if they need to travel to Keyleth. His contact's name is Manaya Churai, overseer of Treescapes, and he says that she has helped him travel a great distance before. So I think she is probably a druid. She probably has the tree stride spell as well. Is that what it's called? Tree stride? Oh, I gotta fact check myself. It is tree stride. Yes. Okie dokie. Oh, it has to be within 500 feet? No, it's not tree stride. It's transport via plants, because transport via plants, you can do any distance as long as it's on the same plane. Tree stride, the tree has to be within 500 meters. Okay, cool. I got it. I looked it up. I checked it. I checked the wiki. So Imogen messages Keyleth a third time, who confirms that she's wrapping up her business in Vasselheim and that they can potentially meet. Then Aram drops a big old bombshell.
I haven't really trotted this out before, but when I lost my family on that day, we tried to save my husband and my father-in-law. And it didn't work. It didn't work. Something about the nature of what they did when they struck. It didn't work.
I have been wondering why Keyleth did not bring back Will and Derrig after the attack. That felt like a pretty big plot hole, so it's exciting to learn that there is a reason there. This actually doesn't really bode well for Laudner, and I don't think the party really talked about it. Laudner wasn't killed by one of the echo creatures, but she was killed by Odahan, so hopefully whatever it was that was preventing Will and Derrig from coming back is not going to be there with Laudner. Now, of course, the whole thing with Laudner being resurrected anyway, since she was kind of like an undead type creature, I think it's all gonna get very like wiggity whack. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
Can I talk to the innkeeper? Yeah, sure, great. He is a human. He has short brown hair. His name is Sam. I think I want to find someone nearby to ask. No problem. You see a human. She sort of has short brown hair. Her name is Samantha. Ever struggle to come up with interesting NPCs? Find yourself falling on the same characteristics over and over? Well, not anymore with Anansi's Tapestry of Lives. This 300-page book is filled with over 100 fully illustrated, diverse, and exciting NPCs with stat blocks, adventure outlines, magic items, roll tables, and more. The NPC voiceover app gives you access to a professionally acted character monologue for every NPC, including voice actors Robbie Daymond and Luis Carrazzo. Plus, all the NPC details are available in the app, making it a breeze to use during gameplay. There are also VTT tokens and NPC cards to help bring these intriguing characters to life. Meet Anton Thrisk, the evil private art collector, Isla, the sea elf cartographer, Greta, the dwarven alchemist, and more. Plus, you can check out an in-depth review of Anansi's Tapestry of Lives right here on this channel. Learn more and back the Kickstarter today by following the link in the description. Thanks, Luna. You're welcome, Luna.
The party heads over to Mistress Seshadri and they hand over Treshi and they explain what they've learned about the Paragon's Call and the Cerberus Assembly. However, she wants proof. She doesn't want to make any movement unless there's proof, and of course they throw away all of the proof that they have. So she pays them the bounty, which is... it's a big bounty. 12,000 gold worth of coins, so they've made like 20,000 gold by doing this little job. They head to the Spire by Fire where they hire some rooms, and Ashton requests that Imogen and FCG dive once more into his memories to see what can be learned about what happened at the Hexham Manor. They see the same memory of Ashton being blasted in the manor and then being thrown out of the window and hurtling down, crashing to the ground. Then Imogen also sees...
Push through the glass and feel like you're just kind of lost in an expanse of infinity. You see nebulas and purple and green clouds swirling. You look down and you see Ashton just lying there, motionless. There's a shift of color and you see Ashton standing laughing. You see Ashton fully armored, clutching what looks like the bloody body of someone as he crushes them in their hand and throws them apart. You see Ashton destitute on the side of the street. You see them starving and asking for help. You see Ashton on a ship in the distance, pushing beyond a fog bank to unforeseen shores. You see Ashton wearing robes and some sort of a Senate seat, speaking to the public. You see so many different Ashtons, different, all held by a singular thread, but none of them the one you know.
FCG gets trapped inside Ashton's memory, inside this kind of glass prism, and things get so strange. They're casting command on Ashton, but it's not working. They're casting sending on Ashton. This is such a cool way of using detect thoughts, like as a DM, rather than it just sort of being, you know, you read their mind and everything you ever learn. Like this idea of trauma being really complex inside the brain and delving in it can be dangerous. It's just a really interesting allegory for like trauma therapy and things like that, which when if you go into that stuff too quickly without training and stuff, it can be very dangerous sometimes. While FCG was inside Ashton's mind, they could feel his body and they could feel the strength, but also the pain that is there. There is strength, but there is pain. There is pain, but there is strength. Taliesin sort of explains that for Ashton, the pain never goes away. We've seen inklings of Ashton experiencing chronic pain since the very beginning of the campaign. Darriman on Twitter did this really great thread about the clothing choices that Taliesin has made during this campaign, and he quite often wears this particular shirt, which the creator of the shirt said that they made to represent the chronic migraines that they suffer. What I found most interesting and also really heartbreaking and sad was Ashton describing how they thought FCG and Imogen delving into their mind, delving into their memories was going to be like a fix, that they would learn what had happened and then they would be able to fix what had happened, and then he would be able to sort of move on from this traumatic part of his life. But then realizing that there isn't any other memory there, that this is just his existence now. This is just the way his body is and the way his life is. And I think that that is something that a lot of people with chronic health conditions struggle with. I know, not to go into like too many details about my own experience, but it's definitely something that I have struggled with, this idea. Like I spent a lot of time in my 20s trying to find like a fix or a cure, or I feel like if, you know, these things happened, then everything would be fine and all that stuff would go away. And then in my 30s, just realizing that like, no, this is just my life. This is just my body now. I've seen a lot of people, not so much in my comments, but I've definitely seen it on Reddit, of course, that people have been writing Ashton off as quite annoying or irritating or immature in a way. But I really think we're just now starting to see the blossoming of the story that Taliesin wants to tell with Ashton. I think this is kind of, we're just sort of beginning to see those seeds bloom. They meet with Manaya Turai at this sort of indoor forest, and they're trying to work out if they're going to go meet Keyleth or she's going to come here. But then
this bright green light suddenly emits from the left-hand side. One of these thicker tree trunks you watch as a singular opening, like an oval gateway, begins to tear through the bark. You hear the sound of the tree kind of creaking as it pushes apart and open. And there, immediately what greets you stepping through, this collection of extended antlers that bow down and open up as you see the flowing of long red hair that drifts past shoulders almost to the mid-back. You see a light orange dress that fades to a dark red burgundy to match what looks to be a mantle of thousands and thousands of autumn leaves that themselves drag across the ground behind as she steps through. A half-elven woman, looking a bit frazzled, but smiling.
Kiki! So exciting! What an amazing moment! They show Keyleth Laudna's body, and Orym explains that she would have seen her before at Whitestone, and Keyleth does seem to have this moment of recognition when she tells them that they need to find someone who can help. And then she opens another portal, and beyond we see Whitestone. Very exciting. Okay, so end of episode questions. How long is it going to be until Laudna is arrived? I can't remember if I talked about this in last week's video or if it was on my stream. In case you don't know, I do these pre-Critical Role hangouts every week on Twitch where we chat about our predictions for the episode, so I think it might have been there. But personally, I hope that we're not going to see Laudna resurrected straight away. I mean, obviously, I hope for whatever Marisha wants. So if Marisha wants Laudna to come straight back, then I absolutely hope that we do. But just in terms of like an interesting story, I think it would be very interesting if maybe they need to try and excise Delilah from Laudna's body first, or they need to go on some kind of a mission first. And if that's the case, and it's going to be kind of a prolonged period of time, then we could potentially see Marisha come in and play a new character. But if it's only going to be a few episodes of that sort of stuff happening, then she'll probably just wait for Laudna to come back. Who is this someone that Keyleth is referring to? Is it Pike? It's definitely got to be Pike, right? It would make sense that Keyleth would take her to Pike, who knows things about divine magics and healings and resurrections and things. And what is Whitestone going to look like now? We do get to see a bit of what Whitestone is like in Tal'Dorei Reborn, because that gives a very thorough description of the city and sort of talks about a lot of the changes that Percy and Vex have made. I'm actually currently working on a deep dive into the history and lore behind Whitestone, because my lovely patrons helped me reach my Patreon goal to start working on these sort of Exandria lore deep dives. So stay tuned for that. I'm not sure when it will be out because it's going to be a bit of research and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm very excited to sort of dive into this iconic setting of Critical Role. Oh, and speaking of my patrons, this is a perfect time to say thank you so much to all of my patrons and to my YouTube members. And thank you everyone who signed up last week. We had like another big influx of people. I really appreciate it. I'm going to say thank you to all of you now. Thank you to Whittle Bunny, Taylor, Mark, Sky, Lewis, Ryan, Adam, Rob, Will, Beth, Shenanigans, Cody, Jake, Toby, Thomas, D&D Guru, Michael, and a special thank you to Yasha, Tony, Rob, Admiral, and Mark. So jumping back to the Durolos, are we going to see Percy and Vex? Are we going to see Percy and Vex's kid? And the most important question of all, are we going to see Trinket?
What is that? This is me rubbing his tummy.
And on the subject of former player characters, I wonder, with the fact that the Cerberus Assembly is all tied up in everything that's going on, if we're going to see Bo or Caleb or Essek in this campaign. We know that all three of those were invested in investigating and keeping an eye on things with the Cerberus Assembly, so I would not be surprised if if Bell's Hells continues to investigate this Dunamancy sort of related stuff, if we see those characters come in. I think now Critical Role has shown that they are not afraid to lean into those past campaign connections. Campaign 2, they really wanted to keep it separate. They really wanted to show that they could do something different to Vox Machina, and I think that was really necessary to sort of help branch out the world and branch out people's minds to the ideas of like them playing new characters after so many years. But I think now we're coming to the like Critical Role cinematic universe phase, right? Where there's going to be crossovers and sort of lots of different things intersecting. So yes, I'm excited for it. I do hope that we see obviously some like new characters and some new storylines. It does, it could get a little bit old if it's just constantly referencing older campaigns, but I think we're seeing that with Odahan. We're seeing that for sure with the Moon. I think there's going to be plenty of new juicy content for us to enjoy. What a wonderful time to be a critter, honestly. As always, let me know your thoughts, your theories, what's going to happen next in the comments below. Unfortunately, we have to wait a whole 2 weeks to find out what happens next, but if you're at a loose end next week with nothing to do, with no Critical Role to watch, I'm actually going to be hosting a really special stream on my Twitch channel. I'm doing a subathon, which is when I'll be streaming for a minimum of 4 hours, and then every sub adds 5 minutes to a maximum of 12 hours. So I could be going all day. I've got heaps of stuff planned, like a Critical Role quiz. We're going to be doing chat plays D&D cooking. We might also be maybe ranking the hottest Critical Role NPCs, because that sounds like a fun thing to do. So yeah, I've put all the details about that in a pinned comment, and I hope to see you there. Bye!
Yo, fly honey, commence beatboxing.
Oh, no, thank you.
MC Adverbot must have a sick 4-on-the-floor rhythm dropped in order to advertise, preferably dropped like it's hot. Begin your drop block rockin' beats.
I don't really do that. I'm not even supposed to be here tonight.